Hi, welcome back to Sovereign FM. My name is Bianca Beck. I am the Middle East and Mauritius Marketing Manager for the Sovereign Group. Today, I'm joined by Paulina Zalewska, who is our Legal Director for the Middle East. Paulina, you have lived in a couple parts of the region. You started in Qatar and now you joined us here in the UAE. And as a region, as a whole, but particularly the UAE, things from a legal perspective change here all the time, whether it's kind of updates, changes, new laws, regulations, and initiatives. So if we kind of hone in on the UAE and kind of focus a little bit more of the kind of attention there from a legal perspective, what are some of the trends that we're particularly seeing pop up in the UAE when it comes to laws, regulations, and new initiatives?
Well, in the first place, pleasure to be here. But in order to answer your question, I think if you look at UAE over the last couple of weeks, couple of months, years, I mean, the direction is quite consistent, I would say, despite regional tensions. On one side, we have quite a strong push towards economic growth, but on the other hand, also very much indication towards discipline, how this is being managed. And obviously, legal and commercial matters are very much linked to each other. It provides a broader understanding, broader framework. And at this point in time, it is still very much visible. UAE is positioning itself as an anchor, actually, in the region. Therefore, that's, I think, quite important factor and quite important information that the business didn't stop. The legal and regulatory frameworks are not on hold. It's still very much live discussion, live topic.
Mm-hmm. So from an investor's or a founder's perspective, what's kind of really changed? Like you mentioned, they're very pro-growth, pro-forward-thinking, all these kinds of things. And I think maybe there was a bit more of a reputation for the region being really like soft touch initially in terms of a compliance perspective. So maybe talk us through a little bit what has actually changed.
So given the fact that during last couple of weeks, we heard about new initiatives, new programs being launched. It means that we do have much more digital services. We have very much visible focus on compliance and legal matters, efficiency, and that sort of things. And it translates into obviously deploying money to the businesses, but at the same time, deploying that money, deploying those funds through 1 billion project, for example, that we heard in UAE 2 weeks ago, deploying those funds towards structured, very much compliant businesses. And therefore, what it means is that the focus is on anti-money laundering, data protection, proper structuring, tax efficiency and accuracy in terms of tax frameworks. And we see it more and more often. It's not necessarily something concerning. It means that UAE and the region in general becomes more and more mature, more and more suitable for international companies that seek a platform to set up the business in such a way that it's safe, it's secure for them and their clients and business contractors.
It builds trust, right?
Yes, exactly.
To operate in a region or a jurisdiction that is compliant and up to international standards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and we see it actually, for example, the FSA legislative amendments happened in March. They are much more into checking if the NFBPs are fit and proper, in terms of their roles, their responsibilities, their functions, their frameworks, how they do things, how they manage their clients. Do they have their own internal policies and procedures to govern their business and so on. It also is very much visible towards through actually forum that was AML forum that was launched in March this year by Ministry of Economy and Tourism and Ministry of Justice. Overall discussion about AML framework, where to pay attention, what to change, expanding the knowledge. That education element is very important and pointing out where we will pay attention even more in the coming years.
Is that why we see so many updates? Because they're constantly re-looking at regulations, legislations to see where, issues might be or things that they need to update? Is that why we're constantly hearing of changes in laws here?
Partially, yes, obviously. We are as well learning from mistakes from the past.
Yeah.
Authorities are much more flexible, and they do understand that businesses are not able to implement everything because of the fact that it was an overnight launch of certain new initiatives. They need time, they need to prepare, they need to obviously monitor and coordinate, but at the same time, it needs a second to prepare your team, to prepare your business, to prepare your operations from various angles. Because of the fact that it's not only AML compliance matter, but like I said, tax compliance, data protection, overall governance, corporate governance matter.
Yeah. So what do these laws and regulations look like when they're put into practice? Like if a company's coming in and kind of, all these changes are happening, how are they managing applying them within their own organization?
Well, it starts with obviously staffing, because of the fact that know-how and knowledge retention starts there, actually. And obviously appointing MLRO, appointing data protection officer, appointing company secretary who overlooks this matter is quite important. And later on, building those policies, frameworks, depending on the business and depending on what you are doing, obviously. Sometimes you have much more obligations resulting from the general framework, especially if you are regulated. And sometimes you are into that sector that is a little bit less hectic in terms of
regulations.
Yes.
So how, in terms of, like you said, staffing and kind of companies having these roles, maybe it's not a percentage, but how common is a need for like an AML officer or what did you say, MLRO?
Yes, exactly.
So how often are we seeing those roles kind of being implemented in individual entities, or is that kind of more outsourced?
Well, it depends on the size of operations very often. What is happening is that, like I said, depending on your business activities, your focus, your core commercial field, I would say, there are certain types of businesses that require to have MLRO, which is a compliance officer that overlooks of this aspect. And sometimes companies perhaps are not regulated in order to be obliged to have one, but because of the fact that their internal structure is mature enough, they do have that function either way. So, for example, financial professions, obviously banks, insurance companies, as well as the NFBPs being, for example, corporate service providers, real estate brokers, they do require that function. They do require MLRO because of the fact that the amount of various reporting, client onboarding checks and screenings, and then ongoing monitoring is very time consuming and comes obviously with some risks connected with transfer of funds, transfer of money. And that's the focus where they pay attention to. And authorities very much like these structures, very much like these businesses to be clean and neat. And therefore, more and more often, you can see advanced, a little bit more structured also framework around penalties or some fines related with non-compliance. And this is exactly what happened in March, where we learned that in UAE we will have clarity on these topics. How those fines are being imposed, when, what are the what is the rating of breaches and so on. Again, it's a small step towards providing businesses with predictable environment and building an environment where they know what to do, when to do, how to do things, what happens if you don't.
The need for the compliance is more activity-led or jurisdiction-based as well? So, for example, mainland versus free zones, for example.
Well, business activity very much regulates these topics. And there are platforms like ADGM, DIFC, who pay attention to these matters even more.
Because they want reputable businesses that are set up there, that are monitoring compliance, managing compliance properly, right?
Exactly. But mainland entities are very much in the same place in terms of general obligations. So it's both. So
moving away, from like AML and compliance specifically, when we're looking at other laws and legislations that have kind of emerged in the UAE over the last couple of years, is there ones where clients or, people are particularly going wrong or like misinterpreting or misunderstanding this rule applies to me, this one doesn't, or, how are they kind of navigating that?
I have an impression that one of the topics that is worth discussing is obviously overall misunderstanding in relation to tax framework and how free zones operate.
Yeah.
Obviously, big international organizations are doing a lot of research before entering the market.
Yeah.
And they are in a little bit better position with all those advisors, internal consultants, very much experienced
to help
staff.
them understand and kind of guide them. Yeah.
However, not each and every new
company has that luxury.
Has that luxury.
Yeah.
And therefore, my concern is around overall misunderstanding how 0% tax works.
Where it's applied, where it's not applied.
And therefore, this is the source, this is the main topic and initial topic, because of the fact that it very much depends on qualifying income, the substance, how the company interacts with mainland, how the business interacts with international companies.
Yeah.
Therefore, being in a free zone doesn't necessarily automatically means
make you exempt or
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need to pay much more attention to substance. You need to spend some time on exploring what you need to do to safeguard if the exemption is
Do you think
applicable.
This has been impacting existing businesses more than it is new companies, or even new companies entering the market are still unsure?
I would say that it's work in progress. You know? Experienced companies being here on the market for years are shifting. That educational element is there.
Yeah, having to learn something new, essentially, right?
Exactly. And what is happening is that new participants are also using local consultants to guide them, to make sure that they understand a bit more. Obviously, the interaction with local authorities is much better and improved over the last couple of years. I'm talking about different rulings, guidelines, how to interpret, where to apply, and so on and so forth. But apart from that, another topic is connected with mismatch between what business activity you have on the license versus what you are doing in practice.
Right.
And sometimes it may lead to certain issues with regards to fines, with regards to breaches of regulatory obligations.
Do you have any examples of how that misalignment happens?
Well, very often, especially in terms of companies that are already existing, historically, the business activities were not necessarily described enough in terms of what it covers, and it was very intuitive. It wasn't necessarily very intuitive.
Yeah.
Over years, business activities were cleaned, very much kind of described in such a way that entrepreneurs knows what's there, what they can do, what they can't do, and obviously within regulated environment, it's much more visible, it's much more clear.
Yeah.
But there are aspects of professional advisory which you still don't know, and therefore you check the waters. Yeah. And then you learn that unfortunately I couldn't provide that advice. Yeah. And this is exactly what happens in UAE and regionally as well. Regulators are much more into checking what you have on the license and what you factually provide and how you provide the service. Yeah. And for example, in the KSA last month, financial authority imposed fines on a professional advisor acted without license.
It's interesting that you say that, because obviously working very closely with the sales team as well, I hear like they very much push the importance of the message of, okay, well, what are you going to do on the ground? Right?
Exactly.
Like, because sometimes clients will come to them with like, I want to apply for this activity, this activity, this activity. And they're like, okay, but once you're actually set up, what will you be doing? Who will you be working with? And I wonder if this, I think it probably does correlate, but there's a lot of companies that, set up initially and then later down the line want to work with oil and gas or with ADNOC, and their license or activities just do not
allow them to.
Pretty much. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it also applies to those companies that work within new technologies, where business activities are not necessarily covering that field. Yeah. Or their services.
Like more innovative stuff that's not really in the market yet.
It's something new. Yeah. It's something that is coming up, but we are learning how to navigate, how to capture that particular business.
So interesting. Yeah, it must be really interesting to be part of the team that are coming up with activities that are applicable, basically. From an employee's perspective, has there been any recent changes to stuff that's, staff related or HR driven? Any trends in the UAE that kind of are affecting employees?
I wouldn't say that a lot of happened overnight.
Yeah.
It's more about, I think, consistent approach. So, for example, in terms of Emiratization.
Yes.
This is very much active and an interesting topic for all of us over the last couple of years. And every couple of weeks, we learn about some new initiatives, some new guidelines, some new projects coming up. So, for example, recently we learned that with regards to outsourcing frameworks related to government services, now service providers can obviously, from private sector, be involved, but their staffing needs to meet certain Emiratization criteria.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's not only what you have on the license, but how your staff, how your company is structured from HR perspective.
Yeah.
Also, what is happening is that obviously over the last couple of weeks, a lot of expats decided to work remotely from home countries. And therefore, it's quite important to pay attention to tax residency.
Yes.
Not each and every of us have that privilege to be exempted.
Yes.
From taxes, especially in terms of earnings and due to being employed here. But it become more and more current problem, or at least topic to be discussed with your spouse, with your partner, while providing your services, being employed and working remotely, because of the fact that suddenly you are in a situation where you are not within that safe zone.
Yeah.
You passed that particular period that you need to be in the country.
Because they look at it based on a tax year, right? So like
Correct.
If your rule is 90 days out of the country, then you're, or whatever it is, and you're somebody that does travel quite a bit and now you find yourself out of the country for a number of weeks, people should be paying attention and tallying how long they're out the country, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So obviously it very much, it's quite complex because of the fact that depending on where you are from, the tax framework provides you with a little bit more flexibility, and in certain situations not necessarily.
Yeah.
Therefore, we do have colleagues who are literally counting
the days.
Whenever they are traveling here, traveling there. And being present in UAE is not necessarily the one and only factor. There are a couple of others. So center of your life and vital interests is important. If you are linked to UAE via investment, a property ownership, and so on, and employment, for example. But it's not one only situation or only item being taken care of or being looked at by the tax authorities. There are several.
Yeah, it's like a network, isn't it?
Multiple factors.
Because I know when it comes to the UK, there's like family ties and stuff that, things that aren't maybe directly link you from a tax perspective back to the UK, which I thought was wild when I heard that fact at the time. But yeah, definitely something to monitor. To wrap up, maybe if we could summarize for business owners, for potential new investors, some kind of key takeaways, either from some of the points that you've already talked about, or maybe just some things that they should be thinking about?
Sure. So I would start with, I think, local initiatives and local programs deployed and launched by UAE government.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting because of the fact that it may help you with your cash flow.
For sure.
It may help you with how you manage your staff, how you plan your business and commercial activities for the next 3, 6, 9 months.
Yeah.
Especially in a given situation. And as an example, 1 billion project kind of covers tourism and gives some kind of a room to breathe for hotels in order to provide them with some flexibility over payments.
Yeah.
Therefore, sales fees might be deferred up to 3 months. With regards to customs relief, it might be possible actually to use extended grace period for customs data submissions up to 3 months. And obviously, HR perspective, you may end up in a situation where your staff, where your employees got stuck somewhere.
Yeah.
and therefore renewals, therefore online services to issue new visas.
Yeah.
These things are being looked at by the ministry, improved in terms of efficiency, how you can do it, when you can do it, and so on and so forth. So that's quite important.
Working so closely with the teams, the amount of initiatives that have even popped up in the last 6 weeks alone are amazing. Like Qatar launched 36 new e-services, like you said, for convenience of processing things more online, you know, not requiring people to go down to government departments. So the fee reductions all over the place, mainland and in particular free zones. So, you know, we're kind of pushing that messaging onto our clients that, you know, if you use the kind of reductions and the initiatives and the reliefs that the country are basically pushing your way to kind of ease all these tensions and pressures on you.
Exactly. So that's one thing. The second thing is proper structuring, I would say. So making sure that you map flow of funds, flow of money through your structure. You understand it. You are not necessarily following very theoretical narratives, but it's
planning.
Exactly.
For
it's
case scenario 1, 2, and 3.
Exactly. And it's being reflected in what really happens. In order to build your tax position, I would say, in case of any irregularities pointed out by the authorities. And the third thing is AML and compliance related, actually, because of the fact that we see strengthening approach, I would say, towards this matter, especially towards DNFBPs and regulated businesses. So creating, following, updating your data protection, AML, risk management frameworks, also HR related frameworks and so on. So overall corporate governance, I would say. So generally speaking, to sum up, I think there are areas related to compliance, tax frameworks, and operational matters that need to be aligned. It's not only one aspect that should be taken care of, but generally speaking, in order to make your clients comfortable with how you run your business. Generally speaking, build trust within your employees and be recognized on the market as a very much reliable, mature business. All of it needs to come together. But yes, like you said, there are certain aspects that require a little bit more immediate reaction. Some of them, those are long-term projects, long-term initiatives, and corporate governance. And from my end, what is important is that it's not necessarily something that should be addressed ad hoc, one-off situation, but should be monitored, should be coordinated, should be looked at long-term.
So don't leave it in a dark corner on the shelf and wait for doomsday or something like that. Start actively looking and preparing.
Exactly.
Paulina, thank you so much for your time. Tune in for another episode coming to you soon.